Hello again to another Agakala React, and today we will be watching why Europe's energy crisis is getting worse from TLDR News EU. And let's just go, because I keep hearing radio, like my mother is listening to the Polish radio while she's visiting us, and they keep talking about it, so I just kind of wonder what's going on exactly. Maybe there will be some explanation in here.
Invaded Ukraine in early 2022, Europe escaped the immediate energy shock better than many expected. While prices did shoot up, reserves didn't run out, and most countries were able to find alternative fuel sources to cheap Russian gas. However, this winter, prices have been rising steeply yet again, and gas reserves are depleting at a much quicker rate than many expected. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at why prices are rising again, why this isn't great news for Europe, and how Europe may go about bringing down prices. Explore which world leaders are winning and which are losing every week with our podcast, The World Leader Leaderboard. Find it on the TLDR Podcast YouTube channel or in your favorite podcast app. So let's get straight into it. Energy prices, while down since Russia's invasion, are still higher than pre-2022 levels. In Germany, wholesale electricity prices have averaged 138 euros per megawatt hour since March 2022, about 280% higher than between 2016 and 2019. This has led German consumers paying nearly 4 times more for electricity during this period. Meanwhile, in France, Italy, and the Netherlands, consumers saw prices increase by over 200%, while Poland faced a 180% rise, and Spain experienced a 103% rise. In recent months, energy prices have been getting even higher still. In November, the average wholesale base power prices in these countries climbed to their highest levels in at least 20 months. In Germany, electricity prices soared to 1,000 euros per megawatt hour in the beginning of December, marking the highest price recorded in 18 years. Now, while these numbers are still far below the 2022 peak, it still paints a worrying picture for Europe's energy landscape. So, what explains the recent uptick? Well, many countries and European media outlets have pointed the finger at Germany, Europe's largest economy and top manufacturer. Germany, which has experienced a prolonged period of cloudy, windless weather this autumn and winter so far, has consequently seen a reduction in its renewable power, i.e. wind and solar output. With lower renewable output, Germany has had to tap into other electricity sources. However, this has been difficult for the country, as it struggled to diversify its energy sources, which before Russia invaded Ukraine relied heavily on cheap Russian gas. The incumbent coalition, led by Chancellor Olaf Scholz, phased out nuclear energy and shut down its last nuclear power plant in 2023. Germany also doesn't produce much of its own natural gas, and like much of the rest of Europe, has been phasing out the burning of coal in line with the bloc's green energy transition. So instead of producing its own electricity, Germany has had to import it from other European countries. And in 2023, for the first time in 20 years, Germany imported more electricity than it exported. Now, in order to make this happen, Germany has relied particularly hard on gas from Norway, which last year accounted for 43% of its gas imports. But as a result of this high German demand, energy prices in Norway have shot up, reaching levels not seen since 2009, which are now 6 times higher than the European average. Another Nordic country that is also affected by these price hikes.
The prices for a regular consumer in Norway, or this is the prices of energy that you want to buy from Norway as a country? I wonder.
Is Sweden. The Swedish energy minister recently explicitly blamed high prices on Germany's decision to close down its nuclear power plants, and argued that if Germany was able to produce more electricity for the European network via nuclear power, then prices would stay lower. However, Germany isn't the only culprit to blame for these rising prices, and the way we see it, there are at least 2 other reasons why. Firstly, Europe is having a particularly cold winter, much colder than the last 2 winters since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and as a result, European households have been heating their homes for longer than usual, depleting European natural gas supplies. While for most of the year, European gas storage has been higher than the average over the past 5 years, over the last few weeks, European gas supplies have fallen sharply by 15% and are currently filled at around 80% of their capacity. Now, while 80% capacity doesn't sound that bad, and is definitely enough to last the winter, energy consultancy ICIS predicts that by the end of March, this figure may plummet to just 33%, which raises concerns that Europe will struggle to replenish its gas reserves ready for next winter. Secondly, energy prices are projected to increase even further following the expiration of a gas transit agreement between Ukraine and Russia. For context, this deal, signed in 2019, allowed the Russian state energy company Gazprom to pump natural gas through Ukraine's vast network of pipelines into the EU. And despite a bloc-wide commitment to end reliance on Moscow by 2027, a handful of EU member states, including Slovakia, Hungary, and Austria, have continued to buy Russian gas through this route, which in 2023 accounted for around 65% of their gas demand. Losing this supply will now likely increase gas prices across Europe. Slovakia's Prime Minister, Robert Fico, has already stated that the country is facing a major gas crisis, and Moldova has declared a 60-day state of emergency. So, to summarize all of that, rapidly depleting gas reserves, looming supply cuts from Moscow, and Germany's insufficient energy production largely explains why energy prices have been rising.
Well, yes, because people need energy. It's not like they're gonna be not heating their houses in winter when it's cold. Like, even I have a heater now because it's actually really cold. We usually don't get cold enough for me to be cold inside the house, but we are like at, let's see, 0 degrees. Look, guys, you see it? 0 degrees. So that is cold in Ireland, in my opinion. It's not, and we actually got weather alert for tomorrow that there might be snow. What is very unusual. People are just not something, especially in our region here. That's not something that's happening often. So yep, there might be some snow. That would be nice and stuff, but that's not great for people. People don't like when there's snow here. They're just not being used to it, you know. And that's even the people not used to it. Basically, it's not that the whole environment, I mean like the whole housing and things like that, it's not built for really, really cold temperatures in my opinion. So in comparison to Polish houses anyway, it's like what I know. So yeah, it's cold. And it's gonna be cold, so obviously people, when there's actual snow and there's frost all day long, they need the heating and heater on all the time, not just for nights or something like that. So basically that energy have to comes from somewhere, and if there's, well, I don't know, because the alternative energy sources, it's like he said in the beginning, basically it's windy and it's cloudy, so there's not enough or it's actually, did he say windy or did he say not windy? Yeah, there's a lot of things that are gonna be responsible for a lack of energy in some places, but I'm guessing this current state of affairs in Europe is just not helping.
Now, of course, this isn't great news for Europe. Economically speaking, the main worry here is inflation. That's because we need energy for, well, virtually everything. And if the cost of energy goes up, then, well, the cost of basically everything else goes up too. If goods get more expensive, then people can't buy as many things, which basically makes them poorer and reduces domestic demand. This is also pretty bad for European industry too, which is already in trouble facing low demand. Production in many key energy-intensive sectors, like chemicals and steel, have tumbled to record year lows. Plants are shutting down, and factories are carrying out mass layoffs in order to deal with rising costs. Even putting the European economy aside, politically speaking, a new energy crisis will also undermine energy cooperation in Europe. At the moment, the EU's common energy market harmonizes prices across the continent, so European states pay similar prices for their electricity. This requires states to essentially share their energy resources, which everyone's happy to do when there's plenty to go round, but they're less keen on when supplies are limited, like now. For instance, in July, Germany was accused by Czechia of hoarding gas supplies. Meanwhile, Norway is considering cutting shared energy links to Denmark and renegotiating its existing connections to Germany. So if things get really bad over this winter, it's possible that other EU states will simply refuse to share their electricity with one another. For example, Fico has already threatened to cut electricity to Ukraine in retaliation after Kyiv refused to renew its gas transit deal with Russia. But for now at least, Europe has avoided a full-blown energy crisis, mainly by increasing its imports of liquefied natural gas, mostly from the US, but also from Russia, which exported a record amount of LNG to Europe in 2024. However, LNG supplies are volatile, largely because they're directly correlated to the global energy market. Therefore, Europe may need to invest more in its energy transition and further develop its nuclear capabilities, which is both costly and contentious. Or they could end up signing deals with countries like Azerbaijan, who could supply the continent with more gas. All of this could potentially make life more difficult for European leaders, and shift European relationships with leaders from around the world. We're heading into 2025 with a whole new group of politicians, business leaders, and influential people. The question is then, who'll come out on top? Who is the world's most influential person? That's what we're trying to find out with our official most influential person list, which we need your help with. So if you want to help us decide on who the most influential person in the entire world is, then you can click the link in the description to cast your own ballot for your personal top 10, helping to shape the overall ranking. And your vote is super important, but voting closes on January 15th. So do your democratic duty and cast your ballot for the world's most influential person. Also, if you're wondering why we're doing this, it's for the next issue of our magazine Too Long. That's because our next issue will contain the entire list, as well as fascinating articles about the top 25. Those won't just be boring profiles about each of the people either. There'll be interesting stories about who these people really are, where their power truly resides, and how they wield their influence. If you want to pre-order a copy of the magazine, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. Oh, and if you pick up a premium copy of the magazine, you'll also get access to our internal awards ceremony, where the team will first learn and react to your votes live. Plus, you'll also get to watch TLDR team members sit down to discuss their own personal lists, fight it out, and try and agree for once. You'll also get access to our behind-the-scenes podcast, The Bullpen, and get your name printed in the thank you section of the magazine. Anyway, to find out more, cast your vote, or order a copy, you can click the various links in the description.
Okay, so no, they kind of surprised me with the ending of it because it's just like that, and I was stuck in there. So, do I think that we should invest more of the renewable energy and alternative energy? Yes. Why? Because obviously we are now going to be able to rely on oil and coal and gas indefinitely, because they're not indefinite. They shrink. Those things are shrinking. And we can't really make them anymore. So that's it, I guess. There should be something that we could. I don't know. People probably think about it. They're trying to build something new to help with all that. So you just have to look into it and wait for it. So thank you very much for watching, and I see you tomorrow. Bye.